Hello and welcome to episode 190 of Just Keep Writing,
a podcast for writers
by writers
to keep you writing.
I'm Marshall.
I'm Sameem.
I'm Shingai.
I'm Jenna.
And I'm LP. And we want to keep you writing because there are no writing excuses.
And welcome back, everybody. It is so good to have you guys in the house tonight. And we are going to take a little trip towards, I don't know. I'm going to let Jenna kind of introduce this because Jenna's going to guide us this evening on some conversations. We're going to talk about our own writing, but I think we're going to talk about, I don't know, rage, maybe? A little bit of rebellion, revolution? I don't know.
The world is on fire.
Indeed.
Like, come this week.
I didn't want to take your line from you.
It's not my line. Goodness knows. That's everybody's line right now. Yeah, I think, Shingai, you also said something like we live in wild times. I don't remember exactly how you put it, but yeah.
A wild time to be alive.
It's a wild time to be alive.
Indeed.
It's a wild time to be writing. And how do we write in a way that is not the little "this is fine" dog holding his mug while the flames are behind him? But actually, and how do we not completely melt into a puddle either, or get so overwhelmed that, we're just unable to deal at all? Find something in the middle where we can take the feelings that can be so overwhelming, whether that is rage, whether that is despondency or despair or grief, and let it flow through our writing is hopefully what we're going to talk about today. And because I know that we have also had an episode last year where we were talking about things that sometimes kept us from writing or when that was difficult. And so this time I'm hoping to focus on how do we channel these overwhelming feelings? What are some ways that we write resistance into narratives and revolutionary thought into narratives? What does that look like in terms of craft? But let's get started with what are some of your favorite narratives that channel rage into resistance or into revolution? And what makes them successful at that sort of emotional channeling for you? Sameem has something to say.
I thought of one.
Yes.
I think it's one that we probably talked about on this podcast a lot already. And it's Avatar: The Last Airbender. And it's it softens some things maybe sometimes because it's a kid's show. But I think it deals with some heavy stuff despite that. And I can't remember, it's somewhere in the first season, there's a moment where Aang is really confronted by the fact that his people have been wiped out and completely loses control. And that probably recurs here and there over the 3 seasons, but you also see him learn how to channel it into doing really productive things throughout the show and grow as a person throughout it. And I think every character in the show has their moments like that and their growth path like that, where they're dealing with an incredible amount of loss and hopelessness, and yet are able to channel it into something productive and positive despite that. And the other thing I think I appreciate about the show is the lore and the history and the way they talk about the cycles of this hasn't happened before, but things like it have happened before. And there's lessons to be learned the further back you go, which in some ways, I think I've been feeling separately from the show. This sort of having lived through most of my youth feeling like I was in this progressive bubble where everything was constantly getting better and the world was going to keep getting better, and coming to realize over the last several years, and maybe this is part of growing up, that those periods of stability are not necessarily permanent. They take work and effort, and it can take a while to figure out how you fit into helping make things work as well. But I think what the show does well also is going through that history of showing like this takes work, and a villain's never going to look the same, and a villain is never a black and white thing. But that hope, again, I think what I was trying to say is like, it can make me feel hopeless to feel like, oh, this is just a never achievable thing, like a perfect world. But that also feel hopeful, and that like, oh, we can keep working to make things better.
Cool.
I didn't say that.
I also love that too in the show that you were pointing out at first, that like Aang loses it and has that space to like lose control and just be overwhelmed by feeling, and that it doesn't have to just be immediately to, all right, take your anger and do something with it, but space for feeling and sitting in the like weight of what has been lost and what has happened. That space is really important too, particularly I think in a kids show. Anyone else have things? Shingai, as LP is also breathing in to talk. Sorry.
LP's next. Go ahead, Shingai.
Okay, so one of my favorite resistance narratives is Bitter by Akwaeke Medzi. And it's a book that I've taught a few times to teenagers because it is about teenagers leading a revolution. And I think similar to what Sameem said about The Last Airbender, like there's something about being able to narrate the structures of repression from the perspective of someone younger that allows you to feel through that differently. And what I love about the book is that the protagonist, Bitter, I think one of the very first line of the book is, Bitter was never interested in the revolution or something like that, or was never interested in resistance. So it's about this character who doesn't even want to be involved in this revolutionary act, but then it's like her arc towards understanding the necessity of solidarity and also rage, because she's an artist, and what we learn is that the paintings that she creates are able to conjure monsters who, well, quote unquote monsters, who are coming to kill the actual monsters, who are the politicians and the billionaires and the people in power who are exploiting their power. And just all of those elements together resonate so deeply.
Shingai, I love that you're bringing up Bitter, because when Sameem was talking about how those spaces of stability or care take work, I was actually thinking about I think Bitter is a prequel to Pet, right? Akwaeke Emezi's other book, Pet, because I was thinking about Pet, which is about, it's supposedly a space after the revolution where everything is fine, but that doesn't mean that there aren't still monstrous people. And so another monster comes out of the painting, surprising this child who doesn't think that they are needed anymore, right? And so coming to terms with like, how do you keep maintaining like spaces that allow for justice and community and possibility even after the revolution? Yeah. LP.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the pieces that I'm working on has me circling to things that we've been talking about for months now, so pardon the regurgitation. And that's The Practice of the Horizon, the Chain, by Sophia Samatar, Blackfish City by Sam J. Miller, and Lost Ark Dreaming by Sui Okunboa, because they all kind of took place on the precipice of a revolution, like a huge societal or cultural or hierarchical change. I need to read Bitter and Pet because all three of these are like edging revolution. You're like, oh my God, we're almost there. But like the story ends before they get there. Even with Blackfish City, which isn't a novella, it's actually a novel. But what all three of them do is galvanize at least two populations, like in solidarity against a ruling class that is hell-bent on maintaining the status quo, in spite of the fact that the status quo, to varying degrees, is harmful to everyone. Like patriarchy, like white supremacy, like imperialism. But the idea that like revolution doesn't start with the people who have the most privilege. And I think that a lot of the earlier sci-fi, think about Dune. The most privileged person is going to start the revolution and lead us to salvation. I'm so excited about Paul Atreides. And I'm like, oh, great. Congratulations. Stay with it. But like, this is about people, boots on the ground. I think one of the cool things about the professor in The Practice of the Horizon and the Chain is that she is, she's reckoning with her facility in this space while someone is confronting her with the fact that like she's as much a prisoner as someone who lives in the hold. She just is allowed to, she's a house Negro and she's allowed to walk around the master's house while the people in the hold are field Negroes and not allowed in the house. But like all of that, baby, you still a blue leg. You still got this anklet on and still monitoring your every move. And so, but it's funny because like also those conversations about how that privilege and hierarchy will make people think that they're getting something out of being enslaved differently. And so, yeah, anyway, it's those things for me. Yeah, I think I answered the question.
Marshall?
Yeah, so I have, I don't know if I've brought this up on the show before. I probably have. But I think what's been rattling around in my head when I looked at this question earlier is a particular movie. And you're gonna have to bear with me, but I do have a book example as well. But the movie that I can't shake in this moment is The Big Lebowski. And I know this is gonna sound weird, but
I wish you could all see the facial expressions we just made.
It's one of my favorite movies, and it's a comfort thing for me. If I'm struggling, I know there's a lot of white folks in it, LP. I see your chat. I got you. And it is. And that was kind of that's kind of the reason I didn't want to bring it up. But I'm bringing it up because what I love about it is, one, it's a comfort thing for me because I know all the lines. I've watched it probably more times than I've seen Star Wars. But there's like a struggle for these characters to like find their place. And what Sameem said is this whole idea of it takes work, right? And the dude's just trying to live his life, and something throws it for a loop. And he's like, now I have to fight for what I want back. And he does it in a weird way, but it's a quieter revolution. And he's dealing with a buddy who is so angry about everything that he's been dealing with. He's a war vet and all this other stuff. So there's all these layers to it that I love. But I know that it's not really an answering to your question. But there's a resistance there. There's a line in it that he says, and he gets this actually from another character, but he says, this aggression will not stand, man. And it's just like, he's just fed up with the bullshit. And he's like, fuck, I guess I'm gonna have to do this thing. I don't want to get off my fucking couch, but I'm going to do this thing. And there's something comforting and kind of, I don't know, something that I love about that type of revolution. It's like, fine, I'm going to get off my couch and do this thing. But by the end of it, I'm going to get my rug back, and I'm going to get my White Russian, and I'm going to smoke a joint. And that's all I want. And listen to my Creedence Clearwater. I know it's a weird thing, but I don't know. That's just what's been in my mind today. Cause I think it's just it's at the time now with, like you said, everything on fire, that I just want to watch the movie that I like. You know what I mean?
Yes. And like, I think it's important that you're pointing us towards like resistance and revolution don't have to be only on the giant structural levels.
Yeah.
There can be quiet, smaller, more intimate levels of resistance and of what that looks like and of change. And I would not have picked like The Big Lebowski is not the first thing that would have come to mind, but I do like that you're pointing us towards the different levels of what action can look like and the different forms it can take. Sameem?
That's John Goodman, right? I haven't seen it.
It's John Goodman.
Definitely is.
It's one of the greatest roles. Him and Jeff Bridges together, and Steve Buscemi. It's brilliant.
It's one of those like movies that I know I should see at some point, but there's lots of those, so I'm probably not going to get to it anytime soon. But I was asking because John Goodman took my brain to another resistance example that I'm just going to throw out there real fast instead of talking in depth. But I always thought if Ring Shout ever got a film deal, that John Goodman should play, and I read this a long time ago, so I don't remember the details, but should play like the main villain, who I think has like a mouth in his stomach, if I'm remembering right, but I could be remembering wrong. And that just made me think of Ring Shout as another like really interesting and good resistance example that I can't speak about intelligently because it's been a long time.
Well, if you want to see him as a villain, I mean, he's brilliant in a lot of things, but there's a Kevin Smith movie. Have you seen Red State?
No.
Okay, so Red State is, again, probably nobody's seen it, but he plays this nut, like, and it's just the way that I'm with you. Like, he would be a perfect villain. If you've seen The Righteous Gemstones, have you seen that show?
Oh my God, The Righteous Gemstones.
He plays
later, but
later.
We'll connect later, Marshall. Oh my God.
I've only seen 5 things, so
okay. But anyway, that's what. Imagine that part, Jenna. But he's very similar to that in Red State, and it's brilliant. It's religion-based shenanigans. But anyway, I have another example. But LP, you're gonna be mad about my Big Lebowski thing. I know. Go ahead.
Let me be mad about it. Go ahead and say what you need to say, and then I'll make fun of you later.
No, I was going to get my other example. So if this has to do with the Big Lebowski, go ahead.
I want the feel clear for when I speak.
So the other thing that came to mind, and I think I kind of focused on the rage part of it when we were kind of talking about this earlier, Jenna. And I think I've been teaching for the last couple of years, Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. And it is, again, a quieter story, but it's this kid who, I don't know if anybody has read it. It's a graphic novel and a narrative poem as well. But it's this black kid whose brother is killed, and people in his life have been killed. Now it's his turn to decide if he's going to kill. And it's like he has that choice. And that's what I loved about what Sameem said, is the choice at the end of, am I going to keep the cycle going, or am I going to resist and make a change, right? And this whole, he's confronted, it's almost like a ghost story too. Like, people are coming to visit him in this elevator. If nobody's ever read it, it'll literally take you 5 minutes, and it's brilliantly done. But that's what I was thinking about today too. Something I love to teach and talk to kids about: when do you stand up and break a cycle of violence or a cycle of trauma, because of what you've already gone through. I don't know. Those are my examples.
Yeah, to connect this back to Ring Shout, which is kind of bridging between a perhaps like state or country level revolution, the individual Big Lebowski that you're talking about. It's community centered, but it's community as a microcosm of what's happening larger in the country. But it's very also centered on like solidarity between different groups of marginalized folks, and the ways that is, Black and Native folks working together to make this happen and to push back the power that's coming in. So I really like that example. LP.
Quiet resistance for me sometimes looks like comfort rewatches or comfort rereads. And they're not necessarily like feel good per se, but the capacity to read The Color Purple and cry every time, the capacity to rewatch Grey's Anatomy from the beginning twice a year and cry every time George dies. Every time Derek dies, and Derek is a dick.
Do they all die?
Also,
I haven't seen this show.
I'm just kidding.
They did. It's fine. Or never mind, I'm about to get in the weeds with it. Also, Half Bad. I watched that one a lot. I like just turn it on, and Supercell. I don't know. They're a thing that like I can go to sleep to, and then wake up, and then run the episodes back to the last thing I remember, and just like go back through it again. Not because like sometimes that repetition can give you comfort in a world that's changing so much.
Yeah.
Or that's becoming more of itself. And that's also frustrating.
For sure.
The one thing that I want to throw out before I move us to the next question was rage to resistance in like 700 some words. Toby Ogundiran's Here Sits His Ignominy. Here sits his... Is that how we say ignominy? Is that the word?
I think that's it.
Okay. I always look it up before I teach it, but now I forgot to do that before this.
It's one of those ones that never sounds right.
Fantastic rage of revolution that feels so satisfying and like provides hope, I think, as well, all in this tiny little flash package of awesomeness. So if you haven't read it, it was originally published in Faya and now republished and I think available online through Tor.com, Reactor now. But yeah, I was just teaching that with my writing science fiction or speculative fiction for social justice students this morning. And it was, I think, bringing a lot of like outlet for rage to a lot of people and hope.
Can you send that one to me? If it's short like that, I might want to take a look. Yeah. Just for, this is a side thing, but yeah.
I will send it to you.
Yeah. If you can send me a link, that'd be swell.
So, yeah, I'll send it to the group and then you can even put it in the show notes.
Nifty. I'll do it.
For everybody.
Promise.
So speaking of channeling and like taking things and doing something with it, how do you take your own overwhelming feelings and channel them through your writing? Whether that's whatever form it takes for you. Because I know some people, it's rage forward. Some people, LP has said, it's spite forward. Maybe it is grief forward for you. Or maybe it is, I'm going to take my nihilism forward. But whatever overwhelming feelings the state of the world is putting you in, how do those take form in your writing?
Really good question.
I just wrote an anger story, so maybe I can try to figure out my answer as I tell it to you. I think I've been coming back to, and this ties into the previous question, Audre Lorde's uses of anger a lot. And usually in moments of high intensity or crisis or deep overwhelm, I kind of similar to LP, I go back to Black feminist texts that have made it possible for me to be alive in so many different ways. And that's one of them. And one of the things that Audre Lorde says in that text is that anger is filled with information and energy, and it can be clarifying. And I think that when I'm writing a story, or like the story that I just finished writing, one of the questions that I had is, what is this anger clarifying for me? And also, what is the information and energy that this alchemization in a creative way is revealing, I guess. And yeah, so I think how I approach resistance and anger in my writing is by asking questions of them, by asking questions of those feelings inside of me, because I don't think that anger is an emotion that comes with answers. It's an emotion that comes with questions. Yeah, that's what I got.
Oh, I love that. Anger is not an emotion that comes with answers, but an emotion that comes with questions. LP?
I think I'm moving on from spite. I'm feeling like I'm feeling like creating from negative emotion isn't feeling nearly as fulfilling or sustainable, or that like that's an engine that I want to pull from anymore. Like my life is hard enough. I don't want to be angry. And so, yeah, I don't know if I want to pull from that place anymore. So right now I'm really in a place of like doing care. I've been cooking a lot for me and my roommate, and I've been reading a lot, and I've been giving myself the permission to like slow down and like really practicing what we're preaching in that damn craft book. I'm like, oh girl, fuck, I have to do it too. This is awkward. Where like really kind of giving myself permission to say I'm a discovery writer and like really discover stuff. Which doesn't mean that like I'm not taking my writing seriously. It just means that like I'm not beholden to like a word count as much as like coming to sit down to write at a specific time and like having the two choices when I do so, to write or not to write. But like I don't know, that feels like its own kind of resistance, its own kind of like, on the one side, like it would be great to think like, yeah, I'm so mad about these things, and now I'm running back and fighting against them with this work that I'm doing. But I'm like, actually, I am mad about these things, but instead of fighting back against them, I'm reclaiming space in my own like spirit and for my own magic. And I think there's a power in that. I think there's an engine there. That's a capitalist metaphor. I think there's water collecting there. That makes me feel like I'm on the road to something. And I'm not sure what it is yet. I mean, I'm working on lots of stuff, but like I'm not sure what this change in my practice is going to look like at the end. But like it feels fruitful.
Yeah, I know Shingai and Marshall have things you want to add. I'm also curious because you were kind of mentioning the shift and then talking about being a discovery writer. Do you think that there's something about the rage or spite as fuel that doesn't work as well for you when you're in the discovery sort of space?
Yeah, I mean it's a different emotion. It's a different place to write from. It's a big emotion that requires a lot of energy in a way that like maybe colors the way that I'm experiencing what I'm writing or the experience of writing. It's a lot running through my body, and like if the conversation, and like it's not that there's not a time and place for that. I just want to maybe try some different energies running through my body, some different somatic experiences running through my body instead.
Oh yeah,
what that's looking like for your practice.
I thought it sounded like you were kind of shifting from that to discovery writing, and I was wondering if there was something there about like what discovery feels like that feels different, or that's not the
I've always been in discovery, but I think now I think rage for whatever reason reads as capitalistic to me. Like spite feels capitalistic to me. It's not healing, right?
Oh, and so okay, interesting. Yeah.
One of my things is that I've been sketching instead of like drafting. So like, I don't know what anything's going to be. Right. And like thinking about, I think I talked to y'all offline about this, how I'm working on a class that's like a fine arts, studio art approach to creative writing. Right. And the idea is that if you sketch enough, you will develop, a palette, and you will develop a canvas, and you will develop brushes. And then like, by the end of it, you'll have all the things you need to go back and edit. And the editing is the actual painting of the thing, right? But you'll have all of this material already. And I'm giving myself permission to like, just do that and not be tied to a word count or a timeline or any of the fuck thing, just because like, I've tried that. I know it doesn't work. And like, I've tried that on spite and I know it doesn't work for me, I statements. And so, I don't know. Applying care to myself feels like the resistance that I need at the moment.
Absolutely. Shingai?
I think it's really interesting to hear that, like, it feels like we're in different spaces right now, where, yeah, I think my question is for LP, what would you define as a negative emotion? And then even thinking about, I think you said that you're tired of writing from a place of spite, and I'm wondering like what the difference is between spite and anger for you, and spite and rage. And I'm also just thinking about this from the perspective of like, for the longest time, I was taught to be afraid of my anger, so it's not something that I had access to immediately, you know?
Mm.
So I think even as I get older, anger is an emotion that I am intentionally trying to not be afraid of, and not like my own anger. And I think what I love about Audre Lorde's essays, she also makes a distinction between anger and hate, and anger and something that feels more permanent, maybe. Yeah, so I'm curious, LP.
I think spite comes from a desire to like, on one side prove something, on another side to like one up something or someone. They don't think I can do this, so I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it so hard. I'm in a good place with like my art, and I don't feel like I have anything to prove to anybody. So like doing something in opposition to someone, like I don't need to think about anybody else. And like the other side of that is like, I think you remember those couple of years where I was blocked, where like everything was compared to what someone else was doing. Right. And so now I've kind of like shifted in this other direction where I was like, you know, even writing from spite doesn't even feel like the direction that I'm going in. Not because like that's not valuable. Because it's not resonating with me right now doesn't mean it's not valuable for other people. But I also think, you know, that I've been angry a long time.
I had asked, was there a season where you felt like it resonated with you more? And I feel like you kind of answered that when you said, I've been angry for a long time.
You know, the world has been a place where I was angry. I've been angry. I've probably been angry since I was 17 when my mom died. And like figuring out what moving through the world looked like for me was different for a lot of people in my life, and as I got older, you know, watching creative industries be creative industries and seeing the way that like scare money don't make none, but like that doesn't stop anyone from stopping good art from happening. And I used to just get so mad. I have a good friend who makes a lot of film and television stuff, and like he continually creates things that are from his experience that like are objectively good. All of Hollywood agrees that it's good, but like none of Hollywood will make the move forward because of his identity intersections. And you know, he could be mad about that. He deserves to be mad about that. Me being the Scorpio that I am, I'm mad about that for him on his behalf. But like at one point it just got to, for me, and like my stuff and like the things that make me sad and frustrated and like feel, you know, for a while there I was feeling left behind. I was feeling like people that I care about had lapped me, while still holding like pride, like and happiness for their accomplishments. I don't have a jealousy reaction. I have envy sometimes, but I don't think, why do you have that? I should have that instead. I think, oh, I love that you have that. I wish I have that too. But like, you know, I'm just looking around and I'm like, it's not really doing anything for me. It's not making me a happier person. It's not creating more space in my life. It's not creating more words on the page for me. So like, if it takes that much energy, and it takes energy to be angry about stuff and to write from spite and like let that be the crucible, then I'm like, well, what if it's not? Then what's the energy left over, and what am I making from there?
I think you've ended up like answering a better question than the one I asked, which is like, how do you figure out how to tap into the emotions that do drive your writing?
Yeah.
And so, you know, releasing then like spite and anger, even though you're feeling them, when they're not serving your writing and when they're not serving you, and like you said, giving you more space, right, for that, giving you the energy. Because I think for some, anger can be very energizing and can give a space, and or for some and sometimes, right? Maybe not always. And like, I think what you've brought us to is a question of like finding ways to release not letting the emotions that aren't giving you that space overrun your life, recognizing them, sitting with them, feeling them, and then giving the space to the ones that are. So part of that is just recognizing the ones that are. I know that Marshall had wanted to say something a while ago.
Yeah.
Sameem,
Come back to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think sort of answering both of those questions, hopefully, or none of them, we'll find out.
Or a secret third question.
Or a secret third question that's in my head. I think I have some rage writing in me that will probably come out at some point. But I don't think that, I think I have been and I'm still frustrated at myself that I don't have very raw rage writing typically, as like a way to channel my frustration and anger at the world sometimes. But what I think does happen and is my way of processing outside of writing as well. I think a lot of my writing is a little bit cheeky, and it takes things that bother me about the world or misalign with my values, that I wish were different, and deals with them playfully, not necessarily with humor, but definitely like there's something playful there. And it's kind of related to what Shingai was saying about like asking questions of your anger. I think this is similar in that regard. Like I ask questions, but I think a lot of my stories, and I don't go in with this intent. This has sort of come partly after reflecting on things that I've written after many years. I think part of the intent is to be a nuisance to systems of power in any small way that I can.
I like that.
And I think that's where the cheekiness comes out too.
Like a cheeky little minx does malicious compliance.
Yeah. Exactly.
Shingai.
Marshall had a thing.
No. If it's on the same vein, I'm going to come back to some of that stuff. But please go ahead.
Just very quickly, I think y'all have helped me also understand that, like, that's what it does. Like, the alchemizing of the anger and the feelings is in some way when I'm feeling powerless, because anger a lot of the time is also rooted in a sense of powerlessness. Then being able to create from that's really transformative. Being able to come up with a whole world from that thing that has made me feel like nothing is in my control. That's magic.
Taking something that's made you feel small and creating a whole world out of it.
Yeah. And it's like what Sameem said about that's a nuisance against the systems of power, you know? And people feel like imagination isn't a tangible thing, but it is.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's so important because otherwise you're just like recapitulating the same narratives over and over and over again. Yeah. Because you're putting these better, like these other worlds in place, like then other people have the ability to experience them too. And that's huge. Marshall?
Yeah, I think
finally ready for you.
No, I don't have anything super profound, but I think that it's interesting. I loved hearing what LP said. And I think what I struggle with is when I'm really angry and I'm really frustrated with everything kind of around me, which has been, to be fair, super overwhelming the last several months. And I'm, on a side note, working through some of it. And I'm trying to get my writing as part of that process. So when we were out of town a couple weeks ago, I don't know, I've told you guys this, I think, before, maybe offline, but I tell people sometimes it's easier for me to find the space and the energy to write when I'm not at home. And I feel like I'm like, okay, I can separate myself from everything. I'm not even in my own town. Like I can go somewhere, find a beer somewhere, listen to some music or something, and just like pop my laptop open. And that's like, for some reason, a space that works. And what I found recently, because I have all this other daunting writing stuff, revisions, and there's other things I really want to be doing. And I'm like, but I need to get words on the page. So what ended up happening was I just switched genres and I switched POVs, and I just went into just a character's head that was feeling similar to me, but also like Shingai said, like working magic, like trying to get a handle on some bit of magic. And I've been writing sci-fi, so much sci-fi recently, and it is feeling very close to the chaos that's in our world, that's forming in front of us with everything and technology and all this stuff that I'm teaching. And I'm like, maybe I just need to write a little bit of fantasy. Maybe I just need to throw a little magic on the page or something, you know? And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. I think, I don't know if I'm not particularly rageful at the moment. I feel more defeated and full of despair sometimes. And so I feel like that's why, if I'm going to actually get some writing down, I've got to be able to get words on the page, see a story, and process some of it. And then I can feel like I can go back to some of the stuff I know I need to be working on. And like somebody said, I've got a lot of things that I'm tinkering with, but depending on the space I'm in is dependent on what story I feel like I can write, you know? And I just pulled up this random story that I had started over a year ago, a couple weeks ago. And I'm like, oh, this will be fun. And I had a blast. I wrote like 1,000 words just sitting there, listening to some random dude play music in Capitola. Like, it was just like, listen, you know, there's drunk ladies at one table and this going on. I'm just like, I don't know. It felt like it was working, you know? So I don't think I answered any of the questions, and even the mysterious question that Sameem had, but that's just kind of what I was thinking about, you know? And it's like, I don't know, like, how do I deal with all the feelings? I don't know. If I'm writing at all, it just needs to be something that can get words down, and maybe I just need to switch up. I don't know, switch genres, and maybe that'll help.
Switch genres, get playful.
Yeah, and it was fun. It was like a first person, you know, POV, this kind of shitty dude, like just trying to deal with some shit. And like, it was fun to write. And I just got 1,000 words of this guy. I don't know. I'll figure it out.
Sameem?
Well, 1+1 to all of that, I've definitely have also found that switching POVs, switching genres, even in the middle of one project, just like throwing in a new genre all of a sudden, seeing what happens. So like what LP said in the chat, like it's being playful, and that it just opens up a lot of possibilities, opens up your imagination, which is the other point I was going to bring up to what I think Jenna and or Shingai were talking about a minute ago around imagination and the importance of it. And I think a lot of the rage-inducing things that are happening right now, and probably often, are often the product of someone else's imagination making it to the real world. And it's really easy to get into a space to think the imaginations of the people in power are reality that have to happen. And I think writing and imagining and writing and creating worlds are sort of the start to pushing back against that. It is a resistance in and of itself.
Both agree. And also, there's a hill I'm going to die on some essay someday, that like what we are seeing of people in power putting in place is not at all imagination. Like, they're actually not imagining, like you were saying. Wait, hang on. somebody
I
who
think they're
somebody
really
was
shitty imaginations.
No, I don't think it is. I think it's just repetition of shit we've seen before. Like they're just doing colonialism again.
Just regurgitating something.
They're just doing it again
With a
over and
twist.
over. No, I don't even think there are any twists. Like it's new technologies, but there's no twists at all.
That's the twist.
No, it's not. So I don't know. This is the hill I'm gonna write an essay about some point. But there is somebody who says it that like so there's a great book called Rehearsals for Living, and it's letters between two activists, an indigenous activist, Leanne Betta-Samosake Simpson, and Robin Maynard, a Black activist, who are trading letters back and forth. And Robin Maynard in there at some point says, like, what a paltry world we live in because of the lack of imagination of the people who have put this in place. Like, and just commenting on that, what we are seeing is such a paltry imagination. I think there isn't any. And so what they want to do is reduce everybody else's as well, so that we accept that this is just as good as we can get, instead of letting our imaginations go. Sorry. Little rant from Jenna.
I like the rant.
That was in support of what Sameem is saying, just has a little definitional quibble. As we're thinking about writing and channeling in whatever ways we can and feel like, or being playful, in the works that you're writing, how does resistance to power on whatever scale impact the way you're thinking about world building or character building? Are there specific things that you don't do in your world building, or do in your world building? Want your characters to be, don't want them to be?
Go ahead,
LP.
I was having a conversation with an artist today. We met during my first semester at school. They're also a transfer student, and talking about how like they come from a video and a performance background, and they came to Chicago to do fashion, and they got to the school like, I don't want to do fashion like that. I don't want to do performance like that. I want blah, blah, blah. And so we started having a conversation about like how music is taught the same way that it was 500 years ago, and how people teach meter and poetry, but like meter as a practice is kind of fucked up because it assumes that we all have the same accent in the same language, because, you know, Scottish people don't sound shit like Southerners, right? And like none of them sound like Chicagoans, and very few of them sound like Black people. But it's like this expectation of the way that people talk is linked to the way that these poems are said, as if people aren't going to have different accents over time. So it's like this hearkening to a version of English that doesn't necessarily exist, or maybe an accent that may not have sustained until now, right? And so, but like we still teach it, and we don't teach it like as a practice. We teach it kind of as a rule, right? For me, in order to circumvent some of the power structures, for me, a lot of it feels like looking at the ways that we look at the world, and the way that those power structures define the way that we look at the world, instead of just like, oh, I'm going to talk back to the orange guy. I was like, well, I don't need to talk back to the orange guy, but like the way that we're letting stories be told, that's the problem. That's part of the conversation for me. That's why I go so hard. But also just like thinking about when I was in music school. Oh, no one knows about that one. I was in music school, and I was in like a 101 class, and like at the very beginning, the teacher sat us down and gave us a quiz on the first day. And our job was to put the whole note on the line that the note, it was like, oh, it's a D, so put it on the D line, and put it on the E line, or the E space, blah, blah, blah. And she said, you know, if you can't do this in 2 minutes, you should probably just quit the class. And I was like, and like, I did it, but I saw someone next to me who was struggling, and he was a producer, and he was a church musician. And so he didn't read music. He played by ear, and he's very musical. He's very good, right? But he got discouraged because this other way of knowing music very purposefully excluded him, right? And so I feel like looking at the firmament on which we stand and learning how to art is, for me, I think that's the calling that I have about being in resistance to powers, because if we take it from the root, if these motherfuckers don't have anything to stand on, if they don't have a story to tell because the stories don't make sense anymore, then I'm like, that's the work that I need to be doing. That was a long story.
That was a great story.
My bad.
No, I like that story. Yeah, I don't know. I think, how do I want to say this? I think when it comes to characters and world building, and my own work, I don't know, like there's something, maybe this goes back to something LP was saying too. I don't know. I feel like I want my characters to not just be relatable, but also like to figure out their stuff. Like I know all of us are trying to figure out their stuff, you know what I mean? And like navigate their world the best way that they can. And that's like kind of what I think about when it comes to, especially when I write these stories about people trying to stand up for the little guy or just make their way in the world. It's like, I want it to be relatable in a way to where somebody's like, you know, that character you wrote means X to me, you know what I mean? And that would like just really make whatever this writing thing is really impactful. I don't know, like it just somebody to say like, man, that character just really, I really resonated with this character and this is why. And I don't know, that's the only way I think I can answer the question, because I feel like I'm always writing stories about people trying to just figure it out, make it, or break whatever cycle or pattern or change they're in, you know? I don't know. That's all I got.
Yeah. These are great things that both of you are bringing to the table. Appreciating them both. Shingai?
Yeah, I think similarly for me, I don't necessarily have to world build resistance because I'm writing from lived experience, and I'm thinking a lot about the personal as political. I'm just thinking a lot about the personal as political, and if the characters that I like are like embodied in the margins, then naturally resistance is going to seep into the storyline, but it's not a thing that I'm consciously thinking about writing into the story. And I feel like because of the moment that we're in, most of us, whether you're writing from a perspective of actively trying to resist empire or not, I think our stories are going to embody resistance because of the moment that we're in. And that ties similarly to what folks were saying earlier about like, you know, change genres, write magic, write the things that your soul is wanting to write right now. Because that in and of itself is going to be resistance.
Yeah, I love that you're saying that. The class that I'm teaching that I mentioned earlier, the writing speculative fiction for social justice, it's for doctoral students who are studying all sorts of like justice and liberation movements and like marginalized, you know, ways like folks and like the ways they're surviving and, you know, their own communities and their but the question that like in their assignments in the class, I have them write stories and I just ask that like a story is just like it's under 5,000 words, it has a beginning, middle, and an end, and it has something to do with social justice. And they all freak out if that has something to do with social justice part. And like, how do I know if my story is like social justice enough? And I'm like, you all are all doing this work. It's just going to come out. It's going to come out in what you write. You don't have to try. It's just going to come out. So, but it's the thing that like when it's something that people are trying to do, it doesn't sometimes it feels like too much pressure or it comes out stale or static or like a like Star Wars Resistance versus the Galactic Empire, easy win, the end. Sorry, the original.
It's like that thing of writing with answers instead of writing with questions.
Yeah. And but when they're writing with questions, the politics will come out. The way that you see the world, the way that you engage with the world, like LP was saying, like that will come out, and that does something. It matters. Sameem?
I think my answer is everybody else's answer. So I don't know how useful this is going to be, but
say it again.
I'll say it again and it'll be better. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, because we're in competition. Like LP was saying, that's a good attitude to have.
Yeah, this is my spite answer. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I think it's like Shingai was saying, like a lot of it starts with the question, and then it's wondering, what would a person do with this question? What is that? Who is that person? Let me just write a little bit to get to know this person and explore their life, and then see what they do. And so I think a lot of times for me, for the most part, it's been a conversation between myself, the character I'm writing or characters I'm writing, and the world that they live in and the power structures that they live in. And from there, a story emerges. And I don't usually go in with a specific like social justice message. I'm going to tell everybody what I think sort of thing. But often I've gotten feedback being like, oh, this is like a great commentary on XYZ. And I'm like, yeah, it's like if you're playing pool and you make the shot that you didn't mean to and it looked really cool. I have to pretend like I meant to do that. And it's not that like
such a good example.
It really is.
It's not that like that outcome doesn't reflect my values. Like it was coming from my values, but I didn't go in saying like this is going to be a 1-2 punch to like tell everybody what I really think. So yeah.
So if all of you out there need any permission just to be playful and do your stories, like do your stories. They don't need to be a thing that you wrote to be like the address of the moment in order to resist, right? You don't have to just write your stories and they'll come out the way they need to
playful.
Come.
Oh,
Resistance is playful.
Might be the episode title.
I like that.
Take that, the Borg.
Yeah. And this has been Just Keep Writing, a podcast for writers, by writers, to keep you writing. You can find us at justkeepwriting.org. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Feel free to reach out to any of us on our social medias, and please jump in our Just Keep Writing Discord channel. Links to all of that is in the show notes. Lastly, please support our show by going to patreon.com/justkeepwriting. We offer daily writing prompts, early access to podcast episodes, and much more. Thanks for listening, and just keep writing.